Okay, so Nick is the manager of sustainable business at Sustainability Victoria, where he works within government to design and deliver programs aimed to accelerate Victoria's transition toward a circular economy and net zero carbon future. Previously, he has a background delivering energy efficiency projects and expert advice to businesses through private consulting and roles within Department of Climate Change and Energy Efficiency. So he's going to tell us about what is available to businesses looking to become more sustainable through Sustainability Victoria. So, Nick, you welcome first.
Hello. Apologies about the lighting. I look like I'm on the witness protection program, but that's the lighting I have at the moment. So
That's all right. I love that. So, first, you told me that there's more resources and funding right now for business sustainability than ever before, which is super exciting. So, why is that?
um, yeah, I think there's mainly sort of three big reasons. I guess one is Victoria's, emissions reduction target of zero net carbon by 2050. So Victoria's committed to that. And just to give you an idea, I mean, renewable energy targets in Victoria are at about 40% by 2025. So they're pretty ambitious. They've got to move quick. So you've got that context there. In terms of the circular economy side of things, last year we had the release of the Recycling Victoria policy. So that's a 10-year action plan, and that's an investment of 300 million. I think it's actually near 360 million at the moment for some sort of landmark reforms across the board. And then thirdly, to be the obvious one, is the impacts of COVID on the Australian economy. So we've had COVID drop on us in 2020. And as a result of that, the state budget's been moved to November of this year, so not too long ago, it was announced. And as part of that, really, there's been some big investment to stimulate the economy and keep in line with those targets. So it's great news for business. I mean, we're talking about 1.6 billion, I think, across solar and energy efficiency just in this year. So it's the biggest residential, it's the biggest on record in Australia. And it's great news for business because it really, these benefits and these programs will have really long-lasting benefits, and they will save businesses money and go towards that sort of circular economy and zero net carbon goals that they have too. So yeah, a lot of opportunities stimulated very quickly by COVID, I think.
Yeah, awesome. And I think it's happening within Victoria and at a federal level, obviously, as well. A lot of these same pushes, just with different details. um, so out of all of the different um, programs, I guess, within Sustainability Victoria, a lot of it is focusing in two areas. One being energy efficiency and one being waste reduction. So perhaps let's focus first on the energy side of the equation. What funding and other support is available for things like installing solar, energy efficient products and upgrades, things
Yeah,
like
yeah, sure. So there's a few things on offer, and I might give an idea of what SV is doing, but also some
that?
broader things in the Victorian landscape and nationally where possible. So in terms of support for businesses, information, ESV has some great information. We did a program about 3 years ago called Boosting Business Productivity, and SV has audited over about 600 businesses across Victoria. And so out of that, we've got a lot of really concrete research of saying where the best opportunities are, what the return on investments look like, technical advice on how to get there. We have a range of online training videos as well on the more deep dive technical issues. So if there's any manufacturers listening, things like the gas efficiency masterclass and the refrigeration masterclass to really understand your equipment that are the biggest consumers. I'd really also highly recommend in New South Wales, energy.newsouthwales.gov. They have really, really great training on all the different technologies for businesses if they want to go down that avenue. And then once you have your project, so you understand SV has an investment tool, and so that will, where you punch in the details of your project, that'll let you know actually pretty quick way to find out what funding's available, but also go through some of the more sustainable financing options. So that might be equipment loan finance, hire purchase, and environmental upgrade finance. So there's great solutions there. There's another national program that I should mention here that came out, I think more in 2020, and that's a federal program called Business Energy Advice, and that's for 6 to 20 employees, and you can qualify for a one-to-one consultant and expert advice. So I would love to hear people go through that process. I'm yet to learn more about it, but that's on offer federally, so on all states. Then you have the state-based energy efficiency programs. In Victoria, it's called the Victorian Energy Upgrade Program. In New South Wales, the Energy Saver Scheme, and in South Australia, it's the Retail Energy Efficiency Scheme. So they're discounts, rebates, not quite rebates, but discounts on a range of energy efficiency upgrades that are available. So that may range to 10 to 20% off to free in some cases for things like LED lighting. I should probably note here too, what's taking up most of my days is that in the state budget in Victoria, it was announced that there would be some targeted incentives on top of VU in Victoria. So I can't say too much about it. I can just say watch this space, but that's a program that we're currently designing up and we're hoping to launch pretty soon. And that will be looking at potentially further incentives on what's there already. So definitely watch this space for smaller businesses. And then I guess I might go into a few of the state budget announcements. Some of this might have been lost for businesses because just keep in mind it was in November that it was released, and we were all pining for holidays and to get away and probably not think about work. So some of this has been a bit lost in translation. So there was the Business Recovery Energy Efficiency Fund, $30 million, and it's eligible for businesses who use about 40 megawatts per annum or over. So that's around $15,000 energy bill plus. So it's a pretty wide gamut of businesses. There was 24 million for capital works program and 7 million for demand management projects. That has closed at the moment. The last round closed January 30th. Again, it came and went very, very quick. But I'd sort of urge businesses to probably watch that space if you have some larger projects, because there may be the opportunity of further rounds. We don't know yet. For farmers and agriculture, there was the Agriculture Energy Investment Program. That was a $30 million program that ran for about 2-3 years, and that was a lot of energy audits and then energy efficiency upgrades for farms. Again, on November 20th, it was announced that it'd be a $30 million extension to that program. So we're waiting further information, but again, that's watch this space. And then lastly, I think would be the Solar Victoria rebate program. That is a residential program, $1 billion. You might have heard of it for residential solar upgrades, and they've just in the budget announcement said we'll now open this up to small business. So there's 15,000 solar rebates available. But at the moment, Solar Victoria has just got a holding page and a register interest. So again, if there's anybody in this session who's interested in that, I'd strongly urge you to register your interest, and then from there you'll get updates about what next. So that's just a snippet of some of the programs. So they're pretty heavy investment, and there's more details coming out about a lot of this in, I'd say the coming month or two.
Amazing. Yeah, there's so much going on that it's hard to actually understand everything and how to take advantage of all of these things. But I guess in summary, if you're thinking about renewable energy, i.e. solar panels on your roof, there's heaps of the rebates. Like sometimes they're almost free depending on all of the different rebates and things that you get. There's lots of money out there for upgrading your equipment and lighting, and I imagine insulation and HVAC and
Yeah, definitely. There's you've got the state-based energy efficiency programs, which like in Victoria as an example, the certificate price in Victoria is getting higher and higher at the moment as well. So those incentives are getting to sort of historical highs than they've ever got. But you do have, again, from the budget, a range of grant programs that are probably more broad in what technologies and projects they'll accept. They're kind of been split up into sectors, agriculture, small business and things like that. So it will take a bit of navigating to find where they're at, but and they're sort of open and closing at different stages too, which doesn't help too much. But you can visit. Again, I guess we'll provide some useful links after this session to where the most up-to-date information is.
Yeah, perfect. And I imagine there, that I'm getting I'm having people reaching out to me all the time that work for solar and energy consulting firms.
Yes.
So I imagine that's actually probably a really the way to go is to find someone who is an expert in this space to help navigate all of
Yeah.
this stuff. It is available for
And
small
yeah.
businesses to access directly, but I think a little bit of help would be good for most.
Absolutely. I think that if I rewound a year ago, 12 months ago, 10 months ago, different landscape, there were some things available, but to be honest, for businesses, for smaller businesses, mid-sized businesses in Victoria at least, it was a bit underdone. But right now there's a lot that's just been released again near December and into January. So yeah, if you can get some advice on how to navigate it, I'd strongly suggest that.
Yeah, awesome.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Then perhaps let's start talking about the as well, because that is also a huge focus of the government. So can you tell us a little bit what funding is available in that space?
Yeah, sure. So a project, there's a few programs that are available now. Again, some are part of Recycling Victoria, that big package of work that spans a number of programs, and some of sort of legacy from last year that existed before that. So I guess for this audience, what might be mindful is the hospitality sector. There's a program called Love Food, Hate Waste. Actually came out of Zero Waste Scotland, a similar program. SV's been running that, and that provides specific hospitality toolkits and informations on how to track and audit food waste. Been really successful program. We've had 150 businesses sign up, and at one point there was some subsidised audits to get actually one-on-one consultation. That may be in the future. We don't know. Again, it's a watch this space, but advise people if they're in that sector to sort of sign up to the one. It's a great program with huge savings. And again, if that consultation's not there, there's a lot of good toolkits and information on there to reduce your food waste.
Is this
Um,
mostly
the,
relevant to like catering and restaurants and things like
yeah,
that?
that particular program is really focused on cafes, restaurants, pubs, clubs,
Cool.
and just giving them the right tools and information on how to reduce food waste. The Circular Economy Business Innovation Centre is another big program. So that's part of my team that's running that program. And that is really a virtual hub for a lot of information, events, advice, and really a point of collaboration as well. A lot of the circular economy projects really obviously heavily gravitate on collaboration across supply chains. You can't sort of just do it yourself. So that's been launched quite recently, just in late 2020. And under that program, there are some funding streams. So the first of which is the Innovation Fund, and that's got two streams. One of it is for food innovation, and the second is for collaborative innovation. So the grants range from 75,000 to 450,000, and it's really for collaborative partnerships. That's a key thing here, that identify, develop, or scale up innovative sort of CE business models or practices. So so if you're a larger business or industry group that wanted to sort of lead the way and get a collaboration together, that might be suitable. And the entry point for sort of smaller businesses or mid-sized businesses really that want to be part of something or have an idea and want to link into larger projects, I'd really recommend getting in touch on the CBIC website, because that can be their entry point. So whether you receive some funding or you're just part of a bigger project, it's a really good starting point in Victoria. If you need that scale to reach your projects, that's there. The other funding streams, if you're a program, if you're a business that you want to check out your feasibility of a project, sort of your mid to larger businesses, and you might be able to save 750 tonnes or so of waste per year, so pretty larger scale projects. You have the Business Innovation Fund that has two streams. It has the identification grants that are about feasibility studies, material efficiency assessments. That might be looking at prototyping or designing different products that could lead to less waste. That's available. And then if you've already done that, or you have a pretty clear idea of what the business case is, or you're ready to go per se, then there is the implementation grants, and they can range all the way up to $1 million. Again, there is a collaborative opportunity there. If people have collaborative projects that can lead to the sort of 750 tonnes per annum waste reduction targets, then you can be part of that and apply for that. Again, that might involve you being part of a group if you can't, save that much on your own site. So they're some of the big ones. And yeah, really encourage anybody to get in touch. There will be closing. There's some rounds in the Innovation Fund closing the 15th of February, so pretty soon. And then the next round, I believe, is 14th of March. So whether there'll be future rounds will be pending the outcomes of these rounds. So I'd really advise people to check out that opportunity and get onto it if they haven't already.
Awesome. Just to help everyone to, I guess, imagine what that could mean for their businesses,
Yeah.
can you give us any examples of the types of projects that you're expecting to see?
Yeah, look, they really, really, really are diverse. There's a lot of food waste projects. I guess some of the ones I've seen in the past programs, have been not taken up as much, but just led to some amazing business cases and great projects. Have been like material efficiency audits for manufacturers. So we've found that, those who have undertaken investigations or done an audit on their business have typically found like large opportunities. And so, that I think what's a recent example, Plan X, I think it was a cabinet manufacturer in Hallam, and they looked at ways they had a lot of waste powder coating. They couldn't reuse it because of their processes, but they want to reuse it in their process. So they started to use a boiler to bring it down into bricks and use it for counterweights instead of steel in their furniture. So really a way of keeping it on site and integrating it back into the projects. And again, in the first instance, they've done research and they couldn't find out what the solution was. There was a lack of support in the industry to say what to do with this waste source. But they came to SV for funding. They got the right consultants on board, and when they dug into it, they found this solution. And through testing and prototyping, they were able to implement it into their product. So that's, I guess, one small example. There's many more like that. So a range of a diverse range. So I think as well, if you're a business and you've got a lot of textile waste, or in this on that the case of that business, a lot of powder coating waste, there's some good collaborative opportunities through CBIC that you can actually feed into other people's work and sort of put up your hand and say, look, I've got a large waste stream. I need help. I don't know what to do with it. And from that, you might form up a project. So that's what we're hoping to get out of CBIC. And so far, so good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously, again, I think if this isn't an area that a business is already working on and identifying these opportunities, it's a good opportunity to get someone in to do an audit or an assessment like that to help
Yeah.
identify those.
Yeah, it can be. So, these businesses are on different journeys. Some really know their stuff. It's so specific and tailored field that they feel they know the best. But others have really benefited from a set of external eyes just coming and having a look at it, assisting. Others need a lot more research to find out where those connections are, find out where the opportunities to reuse that waste. And then there's other businesses that just really want a firm business case of, if they're going to use the husks of their product, or what they, I think there was a vineyard recently using, I think it was a vines for another value add product. They want that business case to know that if they start investing in equipment and, going into this, that it will pay off, that is a new income stream. So for that, it never hurts to get a consultant on board, understanding that a lot of these businesses are really pretty busy, focusing on the day to day. So yeah, I would encourage, if you've got some starting point, you can always use consultants and other assistants to, propel you along the way. So
Yeah,
yeah, and there is funding to support that too.
perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll certainly share heaps of, I think, after this session. What I've been doing is putting them all into the Facebook group so that everyone can access them after the session as well. So Nick, you can send me your
Yes.
list
Yeah.
of
The list. Yep. The list. Yeah.
and everyone who's watching, please, if you have any questions for Nick, make sure that you enter those into the chat box. So you can open that up from the bottom of your screen. Now, Nick, thank you so much for touching on what's happening in the other states already. New South Wales, obviously, they have the energy scheme that you mentioned. I believe they also have some good waste programs. Do you know?
Yeah, look, I did see that some ones you brought up earlier. Yeah, I think bin trim, if it's still going. the New South Wales Energy Savings Scheme, which does continue. There was a range of grants that were available for manufacturers, for compressed air, for steam, for other areas that I'm not sure if they're still available, but there was quite a large package that came out, I think, in 2019 and continued through to 2020. Queensland, I think, has an Energy Saver program, a resource recovery in industry development program. So yeah, I'd encourage both the state departments to research then what's available in your state. You know, there's growing opportunity, and again, I think with the COVID response and stimulus across different states, you know, there might be new things that weren't there, or larger scale of things that were there previously than if you've investigated last year or earlier.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is such a rapidly evolving
It
space. It's so hard to keep on
yeah,
top of.
it's faster than I've ever seen it move. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
So yeah, obviously those links that you provide that will be helpful for everyone to keep on top and to sign up for future updates about each of those
yep,
programs because of all the closing dates and new rounds opening and all of that kind of fun.
mm,
Um, so what's the first thing that you would recommend, I guess, then for small businesses who are maybe let's do it twice. One for
yeah.
small businesses who haven't really started looking into this space yet, and perhaps another one for businesses who already have been looking at their energy and waste and are ready to make a bigger investment.
Yeah, so I guess on the latter, so those even if it's a small or the mid-sized businesses that are sort of ready to make an investment or have looked into it and know, I'd probably say the advice I'd give about funding is like let funding sort of help propel you, but just don't let it hold you back. Don't there's some great opportunities I've just mentioned. There's sort of more than there was before, but a lot of the projects I see are really good, really viable projects, great return on investment. You know, there's the environmental benefits and there's just the bottom line benefits are great opportunities. For some companies, they're increased revenue streams. And from time to time, I see people sort of stalling or really holding back, hoping for a funding opportunity. I think my advice is just sustainability is a big journey. There's multiple projects you can do. So just keep on with the continuous improvement. If you get to that point, you've got a viable project and there's funding available, great. It can propel that or it may make you move a bit faster. But don't let it hold you back. You know, it has to be sustainable even from the business sense. It has to stand on its own 2 feet. And if it does, you know, there's finance and there's other ways of making it happen. So I guess that's the advice. Don't let it hold you back, let it propel you. For smaller businesses just getting started, oh, look, where to begin? I think that a lot of the programs that I work in often just focus primary as a first point of call is resource efficiency. So rather than looking at the product you sell, there might be some great opportunities there just in your operational costs, you know, particularly if you're, say, a manufacturer, someone with some larger energy overheads and material costs. There's really great opportunities that just can be found in being more resource efficient and reducing your footprint overall by just doing that. So I think that's a good starting point. If someone wants to start off just looking internally within the scope of your own business, what can you do? And then once you feel comfortable you're on the right track or you've got your projects and, you know, they're just going to roll out as they are. I always like businesses that I've seen or admired where they don't wait to finish those projects and then sort of assess the results. You know, there's some pretty clear return on investments. They just roll out those projects, they have the schedule of works, and then you can look maybe more outwards. What's your product? You know, how can you make it a value add product? How can you redesign it potentially? How do you, and then really shaking the tambourine of these, you know, these advances you've made to your customers, let them know you're on this journey, on zero net carbon journey or circular economy, and these are the things you're doing. We see a lot of sort of customer retention and a lot of focus from customers on businesses and interest that is showing that they're actually doing something to make a difference. So yeah, I guess that's it. Like the first point can be that sort of internal sort of bottom line. How am I going to reduce how am I going to do the same business or sell the same products and services, but just use less and reduce my footprint? And then once that's on the right path, look external, look how to grow. So
And I think with those energy projects, especially, once you start tracking your energy and then implementing initiatives that are going to reduce your energy use, you start seeing that on your energy bill, and
You
you see
do, yeah.
how much you can reduce each month, each year. And I think that can actually get a little bit addictive. Like it's kind of like a game.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
It,
what can I do next? And how much is that going to take off my energy bill?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Anybody who sees the effect of it just comes back for more. So we have, businesses that continually just come back, wanting to know, is there any more funding? Because they've done that. So we've had programs too where people have had audits, and they've had audits again down the line, and it's been raised, is this questionable? They're going to get, they're paying for it. Are they going to get much value out of it? But in the vast majority, it has resulted in more clear ideas of what the next project is. Things have changed over 5 years. Some people looked at things that are not viable 4 years ago. They are now more viable. There's either new technologies or simply energy's gone up. So it really is a different story. So yeah, it can get addictive, and it's just a continuous improvement thing. You've just got to. It's not sort of a one-trick approach. You're not going to just invest the once and it's all done, and never has to be looked at again. There's really continuous improvement along the way that pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and pop them in the chat. Nick, I've
Yep.
heard with things like the environmental upgrade scheme, where I believe it was that one where it starts with someone coming out and doing like a free assessment, a free energy assessment of a business. That even sometimes when they have that and they're presented with all of this information about this is how much money and energy you can save, sometimes they still don't actually take that next step and go implement that. Do you have any idea on how we can change that, how we can tackle that, how we can address that like behavior, I guess?
It's a very, very, very good question. You can often lead a horse to water, as they say, but it is hard to make them drink at times. I think there's a few things in that. I think baby steps sometimes, like you said, some people need to see the evidence that it's saving, and then they're inspired to do more. There's so many different approaches I've heard over the year. I think really the idea is that once I've got that advice, we've found a lot of gains by follow-up, otherwise known as nagging. Have you done this? Have you done that? But as an example, I mean, there was like the Boosting Business Productivity program. We ran, a number of, I think it was 300 audits, and we actually got significant leverage from that program. And we found that just following up with the businesses. So often the audit reports or the recommendations that they're there, the business receives that information, but there's some sort of barrier. It might be psychological, it might just be not the right time. There's a lot going on, COVID, and, take your pick. There's something going on that it's at the forefront. And so these audits and these great ideas tend to take a back shelf. And I understand why, because for some businesses, energy might be 4% of their overhead. So it's really, it takes a backseat if they've got labor issues or supply chain issues, or, take your pick. I think the thing is that if you get these recommendations, if you get this advice to put it back on the table, we had a great effect on businesses by just literally reminding them and having it in front of there and say, have you looked at that yet? And we did spur a number of businesses to remember, put that back on the table as some sort of priority, and that resulted in projects. So I think that's the idea. Like, if you've had some advice or you've gone down the path, you do have to sort of stick at it and just don't let it completely fall off the shelf. It's probably my advice. Don't let it just disappear.
Yeah, or at least schedule it into a future management meeting or something.
That's right. Yeah, just somewhere. It's got to be there as an agenda item somewhere in your business. And if it is, that might be enough just to keep you again looking at those projects, keeping the quotes coming along the projects, so you're ready to invest when you've got the time and funding.
I think I also know that the council that was expressing that frustration to me, that they were having these assessments happening and then the businesses not following through. I know that they also provide visioning workshops to their businesses. So I think perhaps that that also might be a good strategy as well, to, in parallel with a assessment that identifies all the opportunities, you're also reminding that business not only why it's important, but increasing their internal commitment of this
Yep.
is who we are, this is the direction that we want our business to be
Yep.
going, not just, oh, we're going to save some money.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It has to have that larger, that might be a target, that might be part of, your mission statement. But it is, yeah, the ad hoc approach of one or two projects here and there to save some money, and that's it. We haven't seen the best long-term results from that. So yeah, it is working it in with being part of your business. I've also seen some that have just gone, I'm sick of paying the high bills, and that's it. And that's good enough. And you say, well, if you really want to get that down, you'll have to keep on chipping away at this. But yeah, it's always got to be on the table. And it is really a continuous improvement item. So it's got to be a commitment long term.
Absolutely. Soren has just asked, apologies if he missed it, but does Sustainability Victoria provide R&D support for startups working in the circular economy space?
That is a good question. So there is some opportunities. Look, you have to read through the eligibility criteria, but the Business Support Fund and the Innovation Fund do support startups, but there's usually a criteria. I think it is, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's about 2 years operating. So startups, and we've had this question a bit, and I think the response for the most part is startups under a lot of those programs is a lead applicant, and the criteria for the lead applicant is to operate, I think it's 2 years. And so our advice for startups is to partner with someone who's got that background, the 2 years, and that is for a range of different legal and governance purposes that we've got at SV. So there is an entry point, but a startup might not be able to apply just purely on itself. To say, I want to scale up my business. Here's my business model. It's not really that purpose. It might be a startup that's got a project and wants to pursue that. SV can support that, but you'd most likely have to partner with an organization that we can run those background checks, that's been around a bit longer. So that's my advice here. But please check out the CBIC website for further information. And there's some upcoming information sessions that you might want to attend as well in the coming weeks that could help.
Which is a perfect way to perhaps meet some other businesses. They probably won't be entirely in person, but
Yeah.
in order to find those partners. I know that Circular Economy Victoria is also setting up a hub of some sort to provide both education and networking, I guess.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. So look, I guess what's happening nationally, there's quite a few working groups and circular economy hubs, and they're there for that purpose. So I guess my advice for startups is to look at the eligibility criteria, and if there's not that initial entry point to partner with other organisations and do a collaborative project, because there's certainly funding and support available for those types of projects. So that might be your entry point.
Yeah, perfect. Are there any other places, I guess, that you can recommend that network, I guess, of being able to find businesses to partner with?
That is a good question. So at the moment, the one I'm most familiar with, which I can probably just talk to, is the CBIC, the Circular Economy Business Innovation Centre. So there is ways you can get time to schedule in with some of the people like Melanie Oak and Travis Hatton, who can talk to you more about entry points and how to collaborate and where. There's also some events and workshops that are being booked in. I believe there's a workshop coming up quite soon about food waste in the manufacturing sector. So I'd really highly recommend to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with CBIC at the moment. And there will be those entry points for people wanting to collaborate. So there's more than one channel, so I'd love to point to one, but I'd say get in touch with CBIC, and whether it's Circular Economy Victoria or CBIC, they can point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Okay. Well, unless any more questions come through, perhaps you could just give us a bit of a summary of what the top resources that you would suggest people go to. So obviously CBIC, as you just mentioned,
Yep.
and then you'll provide those links after the fact.
Oh, top ones. So there's quite, as we said, there's quite the list. I would certainly, anything circular economy, I would suggest the CBIC if you're in Victoria. I think if you're in New South Wales, that's a New South Wales Circular Economy Hub. I think it was its name. I'm not aware of what South Australia's got. There's also Planet Arc website, which is really useful from a national perspective. In Victoria, yeah, I'd suggest CBIC for circular economy. For energy related things, it's a bit more scattered. If you're a small business, I probably would go to that federal program. It has some great resources, which was named Business. Oh, I'm just trying to check out its name again. Business Energy Advice. .com.au, and that's a federal program for small business. The top ones: Solar Victoria. Register your interest. And then for other programs outside of that, I would say go to SV, Sustainability Victoria. Sorry if that was a bit of an extensive list, but yeah, the energy programs have been quite split, whereas in the circular economy programs are largely with Sustainability Victoria.
More centralized, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But it was still good to provide that summary, because I think it was an overwhelming list to start with. So
yeah, it is. It's it's grown very quick, and again, there's a few of those there that I said, look, watch this space. So they haven't officially been launched, but they were announced in the budget, so I feel I can mention them.
Yeah, so obviously sign up to the Sustainability Victoria newsletter and subscriber list so that you can get information about those.
That's it. Yeah, and there's always just the grants and fundings tab on our website, which will list what we've got on offer. So again, I'll share some links after this, and hope they help.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting on the event.
Absolutely. And yeah, thanks to the government for providing all of this money for small businesses. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and best of luck. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye.